You can get started. Yeah. Yeah, you can go ahead. Yep, we're ready.
Good evening and welcome to this first meeting of the sixth season. We are going to start with this public meeting. The members of the public you can participate and ask questions. If we want to come here and do a testimonial and you haven't signed this, can you please put your name here? Still time. And it's up there. It's there. Please, we want to talk. So this is a public meeting to determine renewal leases adjustments in Westchester County for leases commencing or being renewed between October 1st, 2026 and September 30th, 2027. My name is Elsa Rubin and I'm the chair of the Westchester Rental Alliance. And I'm going to ask my colleagues to introduce themselves, starting with Robin.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Robert Withers.
Good evening, I'm Natalie Calvin. Hello, I'm Evelyn Alicia Santiago. Good evening, I'm Pamela Stewart, county representative.
Good evening, I'm Dr. Gregory Wilson Smith.
And let the record show that a member of the tenants, Sylvia Hammer, is going to be late today, so she already announced that she's going to be here. Let the record show that we have quorum. And now I'm going to ask our counsel, Mr. Steppers, if he has any announcements.
Good evening, Chair. Thank you. Just two announcements. One, the next meeting's Tuesday, June 2nd, in White Plains City Hall. It's going to be at 6 p.m. and that's for the research and analysis meeting. Secondly, I just wanted to update this board that we have received a recommendation for a public member from Westchester County. And so we're in the process of vetting that individual to see if they're able to be appointed to this board. So hopefully we'll have an answer on that soon. There's no owner rep has been sent over at present. Those are the two announcements I have.
Thank you. So at this time, I'm going to start with the testimonials. But first, I'm going to go through certain rules. Most of you know the rules because I see many familiar faces. But for those of you who don't know, persons who are here on their own behalf, they have 3 minutes to do the testimonial. Persons who are representing any organization or entity have 5 minutes. If you have any handouts to support your presentation, please give them to our counsel and he will distribute it to us. What else? Please silence your phones so that there's no interruption. And I think that's it. I'm going to call Mr. Ben Cohen. Sí.
They're all the same.
Thanks.
Mr. Colon, would you say you represented the organization?
Yes, I'm here representing Slattery Energy Consulting Group. And we are the energy consultant for the DRI of Westchester.
Thank you, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, so I just handed out.
Can you turn this mic on?
my card.
There's a switch. You just gotta slide up. Yep.
Can I take this out?
Hello. Okay, so I'm not gonna be able to read this, but I know what it says. So what I did last year, I was here at the same meeting last year representing the DRI in Westchester. We talked about Con Ed as the regulated utility in this area, in the Westchester County area in New York City. We talked about rate increases that Con Ed had received for natural gas and electric since 2025. I have that listed on the back of this page that I just handed out. So you can see all the rate increases. Recently, the Public Service Commission just approved another 3-year rate increase for Con Ed's natural gas and electricity rates. So those rates were 9.2% over the 3-year period. So it's going to be roughly 3.1% per year. So why is that important to bring up? Because that impacts everybody. It impacts landlords, it impacts tenants who pay their own electricity, it impacts homeowners who you guys might have yourself with Con Edism. So it impacts everybody, and the rates keep going up. There's a lot of infrastructure that's being built up, and which is a good thing. With AI technology, with electrification of the Con Ed system and of all of New York State, going away from fossil fuels, the demand and the capacity rates keep going up as well. Those are not regulated, they are, but they're not. It's more dependent on what the rate is going for that day. Because a lot of the power that Con Edison gets will be wheeled in. So just in the month of May, the capacity rate, which is your demand charge, which is KW, that rate went from $14.96 up to $34, more than double. So guess what? When you get your next bills, your bills are gonna be higher. So again, when you're looking at rents and you're looking at keeping costs at zero base or maybe a little bit higher, keep in mind, this is another factor that people have to consider when you're buying anything, because now you have to factor in electric rates, which impact your own dollars, it impacts businesses, so everything goes up. So that was the main driver of why I'm here, is just to make sure that that is part of the equation when you're looking at rents. Does that make sense? Anybody have any questions?
Questions?
Yes, how long have you been in the business?
37 years.
Have you ever seen energy increases at this rate before?
Over the last 3 years, no.
When was the last time you did?
I worked at a Long Island Lighting Company. When Shore Nuclear Power Plant was shut down, I saw huge rate increases. Because the promise of that cheap nuclear power went away. And now you have a system that this is where capacity comes into play. You only have X amount of capacity within the system, but your volume that's needed is right there with it. So I actually put the numbers for New York State and for Con Edison, they're in here on page 1 towards the middle section of the document. So we're close to the threshold of Con Ed's complete capacity. So what does that mean? When we have our first really hot day, and it's 95 degrees, humidity levels are 80%, we're gonna have a major problem. That's when you start hearing about brownouts, blackouts. So that's what the concern is. When we closed Indian Point, when Indian Point Power Plant closed, that was the nuclear power facility. You shut down 1.2 megawatts of power. You replaced it, Con Ed replaced it, the system was replaced by a natural gas dual-fired turbine system, very efficient, but it was only 800 megawatts. So you went from 1.2 gigawatts. So basically it's a third less of the power. The only way you make that up is by building another power plant. There is no other power plant being built. There is a nuclear plant that's proposed by the governor for Syracuse, which will help the entire grid, not just Con Ed. So all of New York State, New York ISO. So that will help, but that's 5 to 7 years down the road. And that's if everything gets approved, everything goes smooth. I don't know what's gonna happen.
Madam Chairman, please.
How will the rate increase, help capacity today?
So what they're doing now is they're funding projects like solar projects, battery storage projects. Those are projects that are taking electricity and deferring it to other sources. Battery storage is the best way to go.
Well, wouldn't also data centers are taking much of the capacity today?
It's true, but they're building new data centers. Fortunately, most of the data centers are not coming to New York. From an economic development perspective, that's not a good thing. You want that business coming here. The problem is we can't take it on.
I think I've heard that there's a new data center going up outside of Syracuse, somewhere around there.
That's probably why this plans for a nuclear power plant.
Okay.
I'm sure that part of that power plant's already been earmarked for that is. What they're doing now, what the government is doing now is data centers, they're looking at making them an isolated island of itself, where they have to build their own power plant. So there's a lot going on in that area. A lot of the data centers going to Pennsylvania because, I can't remember the company, but one of the major companies for Constellation purchased a piece of that 3 Mile Island, and they're activating a power plant there. And most of that power is already dedicated to one source. Might be Amazon? Go ahead.
What's the difference of having solar?
Excuse me,
Oh, wait, okay.
the presentations are for the board,
Okay,
and the public is not allowed to participate among themselves, so, if the lady has a question, please, you can come here and pose your question.
I have another question. Are you ready, Madam? Obviously, these increases that have been given over the past 5 years don't come close to the rate increases. I'm sorry, the rent increases over the past 5 years don't come close to the energy increases that the landlords and tenants have been seeing in their monthly bills. I don't know if you have access to this data, but can you, or maybe you can get it, do you see a payment deficiency? I mean, are landlords and actual.
that would be a question you would ask on Edison.
Can you,
I do billboards, and I know I have a lot of customers who owe a lot of money. Part of it is because of the rates, part of it is
because of the what?
the rates themselves, and it's the usage. We're coming out of a winter, it was the coldest winter we've had in over 10 years.
So you are seeing a lot of stress on your larger clients in regards to.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Anybody else?
I just want to note a correction in paragraph 3. I think you meant to say winter of 25-26.
Turn your mic on. Turn your mic on, indeed.
Oh. I just want to note a correction. Paragraph 3, I think you meant to say, winter 25-26.
Oh, yes, sure. It says 24, 25. It should say 25, 26, correct.
Thank you, Mr. Pruitt.
You're welcome.
I will try to alternate between, owners and tenants when possible. So I'm going to call Leslie Gassi.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Ms. Gassi, are you representing someone or are you?
No, I'm representing the tenants, I guess, in Rochelle. This is a meeting for Rochelle.
Yeah.
I'm representing, the folks that I come into contact with on a regular basis.
You have 3 minutes.
Say that again?
You have 3 minutes.
Oh, okay, so let me talk there. Well, there are a lot of people who are stressed that currently live in older buildings in the city of New Rochelle. And I know that there's enough of that feeling of fear for the future to go around. After we say hello to each other on a daily basis, the next thing we exchange is the rising cost of everything. The AMI, the average median income for Westchester County for a family of 4 is very different than what a lot of people in rent subsidized older buildings actually make. So we're starting off with an unequal sort of playing field. And of course, everything is going up, nothing is coming down. But we have to find a humane way to deal with the future. And it's time for us to be innovative in terms of what we're going to do. Yes, it's not fair for the landlord to assume all of the responsibility, but each of these buildings has a different history. And the nation is looking at the city of New Rochelle as a beacon for development. But those of us who have lived here for decades with our families, have raised families here, are wondering if we're going to be able to stay here with the rents going up. And I have heard from people who say, you know, they want to charge me market rate, which for 1 bedroom now is in the range of $2,600. But in my building, there is no gymnasium or pool, clubhouse that I can take advantage of. So I think there really needs to be a coming to the table all over Westchester County. I think to consider a family of 4 making $110,000 a year is wonderful, but the average Black family does not make that. And so even an increase of $200 or $100 a month could be a hardship. The lines at food pantries are longer. People are not getting medical care that they would normally get. They're foregoing taking care of themselves to take care of loved ones, to take care of children, to take care of elderly people. And we're losing a lot. None of us is going to be here forever. And I think that the tenants would be reasonable in terms of an increase. But I think we have to look at this humanely. It can't just be profit that we're centered on. And unfortunately, everything is looked at as a success because the developers are developing. but they're not developing in a way that gives us a sense of future of being able to stay here. The way that they're developing is making it more difficult for us to stay.
Yeah.
And we're already feeling that we're housing insecure.
Ms. Leslie?
Yes.
Your time is up,
Oh,
but stay there, please.
sure,
You can expand on anything you want to say further,
okay,
when people ask you questions.
okay.
Yes, please.
Hi, Ms. Jackson. I would really like to hear the rest of what you'd like to share with the board about how difficult your neighbors are finding it, even with all of the development that's going on here.
Right, right. Well, I have a friend who's a cleaner, and she tells me isolating stories of people moving into new buildings and then having to move out because they can't stay there. The leases are for a year. The costs for the amenities go up. The people can't stay. So if they're blessed, they go back to their families in other cities to live. But they're not able to stay. And the cost of other things is going up too, and it's going up for people who in the beginning are not working out of the same kind of resources that they say the county of Westchester makes. So from the very beginning, I think that maybe some of those equations need to be kind of redone to reflect what's really happening. And I don't even know if anybody's capturing the data. But what we really need is to see that what we need is low income housing.
Right.
We don't really, because affordable housing is not truly affordable.
Right.
Even at 70%, of AMI. And you know, the city is doing a good job, adhering to what there's, you know, supposed to adhere to in terms of 70%, which is lower than workforce housing, which I think is 80 or 90%. But boots on the ground, my people are struggling to stay.
Yeah.
And we don't want to be happy. You know what I mean? We don't want to be homeless.
Amen.
We're talking about good people who sacrificed and done as much as they could. But we're not talking about wealthy people. So that would be what I wanted to say.
Thank you. Anybody?
Hi, so I had a question, you had said about the AMI in Westchester, you said about an average level. Do you have numbers for those? Like what are the average, much like?
I think that the last census was like almost 10 years ago. So they're gonna have to do it. And we know historically that people, you can look at the map of Rochelle and see that we did not participate in the census. You know, we don't see a whole lot of us here tonight. Doesn't mean we're not concerned, but we need to really work at getting the information out to begin with. But I think that if what I can share with you now is based on what I've heard many times, is closer to like 50,000. Especially if you're talking about a single parent household. We're not making what the AMI says we should make. And you know, the Westchester County is like the second wealthiest place in, or Rochelle. You know, Westchester County is second to, I think, New York City in terms of being the wealthiest domain within New York. But we can't compare with Bedford, Chappaqua. I mean, a former president is there. He's making way more money than I. So, and we feel in a certain way powerless and apathetic about this situation, because as we all know, things go up in price. We're not going down. I mean, I think tenants are realistic about that, but I think that any changes that are made are going to have to require some innovation in the way that it's looked at. I think we're doing old things, old ways. You know, I think that landlords have a lot of power. Maybe they could come together, maybe there could be some type of task force to look at it. I'm not saying that they shouldn't get the money to cover their expenses, but I'm just, you know, I don't want there to be more homeless people. And I think we're kind of almost there.
Yes.
I mean, the food pantries that we're dealing with far less in the way of, you know, goods. And they're looking for donations, but the lines are longer now.
We have to continue with the, other person presenting. Anybody, oh, you have a question?
Yes. Thank you for your presentation. I am very conscious of the issue. Unfortunately, low-income housing is not controlled by a municipality or the state. It's HUD. HUD is federal. Unfortunately, or not unfortunately, we live in a community where the AMI is the AMI.
Right,
We can't be compared to Buffalo, for example,
yes.
all right? What is happening with the cost of food and medical and those kinds of issues, you know the reason for that.
Yes,
At the same time, the previous speaker just talked about the increase in utility rates. The Public Service Commission took it up. We all have Con-Ed bill, we see the usage rate going up, all those things going up. And that's something that this commission does not control.
I understand
So
that.
what I'm saying is that I think that, I'm not challenging you now, maybe you come to another one of our sessions. But, I'm not gonna, because I wanna hear from you, also representative. So what is the solution?
Well, when
You can build housing that is, has low income, affordable, it has first responders and market rate, all in the same building. It's being done in Westchester.
Right, I.
Yeah, but I'm saying that still doesn't solve the problem.
It doesn't.
So the most difficult thing is identify the solution.
Right,
We know the problem. So we would help, if you help us, how to come up with a plausible solution. Because a census is not gonna happen for how many more years? You know, yeah, that's not gonna change. So what is it that we can do or try to do in these next 12 months, for these next 12 months, that will help to alleviate the pressures upon the tenants and the pressures upon those who are owners. You know, there may be some other things that we hear what the owners have to say, but that is a very difficult position to resolve.
I
And
understand.
I agree with you. The food pantries are supported by government dollars, well, they used to be. Feeding Westchester doesn't have the funds it used to have.
I understand that,
So
sir.
what is the
If you
solution?
allow me,
Okay,
I
I'm
understand
sorry.
your position. I'm not trying to be
Okay.
bad. What I'm saying is that I think that we're at a point where we know that everybody needs, the tenants need, the landlords need. What I'm suggesting is that beyond the public hearing, there needs to be some type of constant conversation that brings up alternatives that could be used. I think that all of these systems are connected and they're all kind of breaking down. So I can't give you an answer, a solution, because if I had the solution to that, then I would own a $2 million home. And I wouldn't, you know, speaking up for tenants. I understand that, and I don't feel that I'm being unreasonable when I say that it's time for innovation. I don't think that we can depend on all of the old ways to get us through the next 10 years. That's my point. So I'm sorry, but I don't have a solution for you, but I can certainly do some research. I'm certainly available for future conversations. But I think there needs to be, a sort of meeting of maybe tenants and landlords, maybe that happens on a regular basis. Maybe you can build some relationships, because we shouldn't be othered, and they shouldn't be othered. You know, but I think we're at a point where we're gonna have to do something different, because those funding sources are drying up or changing. So we're gonna have to change with them.
Thank you, Ms. Gaskin. Thank you for your presentation. Marcos Rosales. Sí.
Good evening, I'm Magnus Rosales.
I understand you represented, the
Yeah.
organization. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, thanks for having me, I appreciate it. For those who do not remember who I am, I'm the labor attorney for the BRI. I negotiate their collective bargaining agreement. Their collective bargaining agreement covers superintendents, handyman, porters, including other staff such as door people, in roughly 85% of the rental condo buildings in Westchester County. We have the largest market share of who is represented in terms of the employees. We negotiate every 4 years a collective bargaining agreement with local 32 BJ, the union that represents the workers of the building. Here to give you some stats on the cost of the employees and what the expected cost will be going forward. This is the year our contract expires. That's for 4 years. In those years, the original increase was 3.04%. In year 2, it was 3.79. Year 3, which is 2025, 3.45, and this year it's going to rise 3.33% overall. That's an average of 3.4%. As I said, our contract expires this year, September 30th of this year. We will start negotiating with local 32 BJ, most likely in August. What do we foresee? We've taken a look at what other collective bargaining agreements are doing around the country, and more specifically in New York and the New York City area. Most people are aware, about a month ago, the nurses went on strike. They settled their contract. There's another group about to go on strike of nurses. But you can look at there and try and glean, what are we going to be faced with? What are we going to be asked about? And where are we going to settle? If you look at that contract, the first year, they settled on about 5% increase. Second year is 6%. The third year is a 7.8%. That's what's coming. They have a 3-year deal. New York City just did their collective bargaining agreement with their building personnel, and they averaged roughly 4 to 4.2% each year of overall increase. We also have to look at our history. What have we done in the past gives us an idea of what we can accomplish in the future. If you look at our last contract, our wage rates increased by 4.34%, 4.62%, 3.09%, and 2.83%. You're wondering, why did it drop so much? That's because the corollary to that is that our healthcare increased as well. So we had increases to healthcare in the first year, 2.5%. Fantastic. Then it started to rise to 3%, 3%, and 6%. Compared to the market, that's fantastic, but it does contribute to an overall increase. We also have a retirement fund that we're required to pay into. It's not optional, and withdrawal from that would be extremely costly. That is going up 6.25% and 5.88% this year. We expect that going forward is going to probably be somewhere between 6% and 7%. Healthcare, we're not sure about yet. We're trying to get an idea, but I would not be surprised if that's going to be in the 7 to 9% increase range. If you look at healthcare, I don't know if that would be pay for your own healthcare or if you're in charge of healthcare for an employer. Healthcare is rising at about 10 to 12% easily. For large groups, smaller groups, it's going up much more like 18%. We have a large buying power, So we're able to keep it somewhat under control. We hope to keep it under 10%. I do know we've had some preliminary talks with you. We've already talked about cutting some benefits, trying to keep the cost as low as possible. There's a legal service fund and also a training school fund. They're smaller, but they're increasing at about 11% per year. That's where we are going forward. I'd like to give you numbers for the rest of the term of our contract, but I'll be able to do a much better job with that next year after we do our collective bargaining in September. Are there any questions?
Any questions?
Yes, what would you say would be the average salary of somebody working in a building or in a maintenance position?
So the average superintendent in Westchester County is at about $60,000 per year. But where that sounds kind of low, you have to also include what they get. There is no contribution healthcare, fully funded by the employer. Pension fund, the training fund, and they have 401ks with them. In addition to that, the superintendent resigned an apartment rent.
What would you say would be the turnover rate of people who work in buildings, and if you have those statistics?
The statistics, I can tell, I've been involved in it since 1992. It's extremely low. When people get these jobs, they don't leave them. I would say right now, I have 3 cases in my files that were less than a month old, where the superintendent are in the mid to late 70s. Don't want to leave. You know, it's too good of a job. You know, and to tell you, it sounds funny, but they've been there 45, 50 years. They don't want to leave.
Reverend, you have a question?
Yeah, when you quantify the average superintendent in terms of salaries, you threw out what, 60,000, did you say?
About 62,000.
But when you quantify everything that goes with it, including the housing,
About 130,000.
that sounds a little better.
Yeah.
Because most people don't have a pension. If there is a pension, they have to contribute.
Right, and that.
Wait a minute. Most folks who are low income have to pay their own health costs.
Right.
Secondly, thirdly, most the health on the health costs alone in this country, we know what is happening. So you're making $130,000, and they don't have to worry about utility costs, health costs, pension costs, none of that, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's all. That's all.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Have a good evening.
Next person is Diana Lovett. Please introduce yourself and who you representing.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, hi, thank you so much. My name is Diana Lovett, and I help run the Merrimack Coalition for Affordable Housing, which started in the Merrimack and now works in several municipalities.
You have 5 minutes.
Okay. I'm here tonight because the data is unambiguous. For the first time this year, 2 working adults sharing rent in Westchester cannot afford a 2-bedroom apartment without spending more than 30% of their income on housing. And that gap between wages and rent has widened every single year since 2020. Nearly half of all renters in Westchester are already cost burdened, and the rental vacancy rate has fallen to just 1.9%. These aren't abstractions. These are the families, service workers, and leavers who are one rent increase away from displacement. The board has the authority to act, and we're asking you to use it. A 10% increase that some landlords are requesting would push thousands of already trained households past the breaking point. Our coalition urges the board to hold the line, no rent increase for leases in May, October 1st, 2026 through September 30th, 2027. Rent burden is a crisis. You can help prevent this instance.
Okay, so you mentioned, I'm sorry, was it 10%? What? You mentioned that an increase of 10% would. Could you repeat that?
Displacement, yeah.
Is there any particular reason why you chose 10%?
I mean, I've heard that number being discussed.
You?
around in the area.
We've never.
Historically,
They have never.
You got it on tape.
I'll fly right here, but
Excuse me. I am not going to tolerate this. If you have something to say, you can sign this and come here to the podium. Nobody's asking you anything. You have to abide by the rules, please. I will appreciate if you do that. Thank you.
So the point it was a question, like I was curious with that 10% from, because in the 8-year history of this board that I've been a part of, we've never come close to 10%.
Ask for it.
They've asked for it, but we've never.
Right.
You know,
That's-
yeah.
I think
I'm just curious, thank you for answering. Yeah.
Any other questions?
any other question?
I just want to know if you have a copy of her testimony. I'll get it.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other question? No? Thank you, Mr. Lovett.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next person, I have here is Gary Allen.
Good evening. I'm Jerry Houlihan. I think you would know that after a few years. I'm just teasing. I'm the vice chair of the Apartment Loans Advisory Council, and I'm also with Houlihan Partners, which is a family-owned real estate firm specializing in commercial real estate here in Westchester. Since last year, and even several months prior, interest rates have doubled for mortgages on commercial properties. My company has interest in several properties throughout Westchester County in New York City that we've had to refinance due to the loans maturing. Excuse me. Interest rates have doubled in all of these loans from 3.5% to above 6%. In fact, we have sold 3 properties, one of which is a rent-stabilized apartment building, which is under contract for a price that's significantly lower than what was purchased for in 2016. Prior to the HSTPA legislation. The cost of the increased interest on this $3 million loan is $75,000 annually, or over 5 years, $375,000. Obviously, the reason the ownership has decided to sell this building is that the interest payments have caused the property to run into loss. This situation is a microcosm of what's been happening throughout the industry. Since most categories of expenses have increased, in addition to the continued decay of value of the rent-stabilized buildings through HSTPA, the increase in interest rates makes it only more difficult to operate apartment buildings without a loss. We simply cannot continue to provide affordable, safe housing in this county to these conditions. Also notable is the fact that lenders are only doing business with existing clients. If you're a new client, the rent-stabilized building, to refinance, you won't get far at all. I don't know if recent increases in rents this year will have much of an impact on the situation, but it's the least we owners can hope for. Please provide us with reasonable increases in rents this year if you want us to provide adequate housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
yes.
What do you propose is a reasonable rate increase?
I'll let somebody else from the NOAC at the end of the hearings provide that.
Mr. Houlihan, I assume that in your capacity and not only the buildings that you own, but at your family ran company, you negotiate with a lot of banks.
Yes.
Okay, what do you see right now? What's the landscape in the lending environment for this asset class? What do you?
Frankly, it's considered a toxic asset. They want to stay away from it. They see the expenses coming up, and with HSTPA, the inability to raise rents, it's a no-win situation.
What, that building before your interest rate increase, was it profitable together?
It was going to be if HSTPA was not passed, because there was some value in the very, very low rents. We had the ability to vacate the apartment. renovate it, and bring it up to market.
Understood. The market for your building right now must be crimped by this, so you're probably not in a good position to sell it, given sellers, or excuse me, possible purchase.
Yeah, it's gonna be a significant loss. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Gary, Mr. Moonhead, is there any data to quantify at what rate this is happening to landlords in Westchester? In other words, how many landlords are facing similar situations?
But I mean, you can read any article in the paper that talks to this. Cranes in New York have a lot of articles like this. I mean, it's far, far worse in New York City. So again, we're a microcosm in New York City. If we read what's happening in New York City with these apartment buildings that are under stabilization, it's not good.
How many units are in the building?
35.
Okay, so it's one of the smaller size building.
Right, under 40 units, right?
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
We're going to call, Miriam, I can't read the last name. Miriam?
The same.
Hi. Please introduce yourself and tell us if you're representing anybody other than yourself.
Yeah, Mary saying, well, years gone by really quickly, I remember being here last year. So I am the, housing chair for the NAACP in Rochelle. And, although I'm not speaking formally for the NAACP, but, we are here representing, tenants, and we're here representing, communities. So,
We will give you 5 minutes.
thank you. So, we hear the landlords asking for increases, yet they seem to be trying to tell you what increase. Last year, I remember the increase they were asking for was like 12%. What happened was, they cite all of the costs, like Con Edison, as if the people don't pay their Con Ed bills in apartments, and whatever Con Ed or heating bills that they have is part of your rent. So, that's something that is passed on to the renters already, so we're covering a lot of those costs, and yeah, those costs have gone up, but the renters are covering them. In Rochelle in particular, if you haven't been paying attention, we've had the same runaway development, which I'm sure a lot of these folks are involved with a lot of this development. And so if it's such an issue, why are folks and landlords continuing to develop? There's a lot of luxury apartments, and the cost has skyrocketed and caused all rents to go up, all home prices to go up. And it's something that is just out of the everyday person's reach. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable that you grow up in an area, in a town that you love and want to stay in, but you can't. Folks have left in droves already. And we want to attract people from Manhattan. It's great for them, but quite frankly, even folks from Manhattan or individuals who consider themselves that have great jobs, engineers, HR directors, are like, I can't afford this. I'm gonna have to leave Rochelle. By the time all the fees and all the rent costs come in, the parking and all of that, it's out of my reach. And I make a good salary. This is not a low income person. So that's a huge issue. Now, we talked about you know, I heard superintendents make $60,000. So that's your superintendent, but I think you talked about doorman, right? Doorman does not get an apartment. Your cleaners, they don't get an apartment. How much do they make? So really, when you talk about low income, a lot of the folks, $16 an hour, $20 an hour, right? That adds up to what? $30,000 a month, a year, $38,000 a year. And we're like, oh, they're doing well. That means it's like $2,000, $3,000 a month. But yet your apartments are costing you more than that. So how are you expected to make this? When we were hiring, people for the city, people for the school district, which are the biggest employers in Rochelle, in similar towns, of course, right? And a lot of those jobs are by low-income people, Blacks, in particular. I remember the security guards, when you look at who the security guards in Rochelle, at the school, it was $40,000 per security guard. That was the salary. And that's not even a full-time job, it's a part-time job, meaning you're not getting benefits. Meaning you don't have, you don't get paid when there's days off. There's all kinds of things, and these are the things that we're dealing with. So we always talk about, we come here and talk about increase in how we can manage the increase in the rents. I'm asking for us to start talking about how do we increase the number of apartments that we add to the rent control home. That's what we need to start talking about. That's one of the solutions which you would ask for, instead of allowing landlords, as you heard, to allow the apartments to, age out, and then they can eventually, bring them onto marketplace. We need to keep things affordable, and you are one of those arms and avenues for us to do that. So we really need to get it where you're adding to the pool. We should be clear on what the pool is, what it has been, and where we're gonna keep it at and where we're gonna increase it to. I think those are some of the things that I wanted to bring up. Any questions?
Your time is up.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
Any questions? Yes, I would like it to continue on the rest of the testimony.
That is, the bulk of my testimony. I think what I wanted to also bring out is just, you tend to have, we have some of the buildings here in Rochelle that we know as being a very affordable buildings, right? They have changed over hands. They're no longer either HUD buildings. HUD has ratified them and all of this other stuff, right? So you have City Park apartments. So a year or two ago, they were allowed to increase their rents on people in a 3-month grace. So that's where you would get some kind of rent stabilization, right? In about 60 days, they were told your apartment increase was going to be like $1,000 to $1,500, almost double what they had to pay. And it was passed. And this is affordable housing, right? That's right there in City Park now, because it's like, oh, this is what the market rate is going to. Then we have Parents in Arms, so Ms. Leslie talked to you, right? You have that building, again, has been always affordable for people, but we've allowed for them to increase the rent by $1,000 and told them this in 60 days, $1,000. And it happened. So these are the things that we have to deal with in terms of affordable homes and affordable housing. And in addition to that, homes, even the homes are a problem, because before you used to be able to buy a home and fix it up. Now you've got this influx of developers, and they're scooping up homes and then building them and then flipping them out. Our city council has allowed this thing where they're allowing them to partition off the lots, put 2 homes on it. Where I grew up here in Rochelle, my aunt's home right there on Circle Street, you weren't able to, she wanted to forever ask, can I build another home? No, you couldn't. She struggled all her life till she died with that house, right? Her son then eventually lost the house, because he couldn't, if he could have subdivided it, it would be great. As soon as he sold the place, they allowed them to subdivide the housing, the house and the lot. And now there's two, homes that are allowed to be built on it. So a lot of this thing happens and now there's like this monopoly. I think that word came up. There's this monopoly that's going on where it prices out the individual person, and the rent and the cost of homes is no longer in our hands. So we need you to desperately understand this and do everything that you can to keep it down. Like I said, not just don't increase it. Yeah, you don't need to increase it, but you need to increase the number of apartments going into rent stabilized pool. You need to understand that data, and I bet you don't have it. So that's where I am.
I think that's a great idea. I don't know if we have that, as a commission, the authority to do something. I mean, individually, we could. I think that's definitely, I'm familiar with Karen Canal, didn't you?
I think you're a good start.
Much of the things that you said about this increase, you said, we or they. Someone had to approve those dramatic increases, right?
100%.
Okay. Some entity, not this entity.
This entity was appointed by a lot of those entities that are
I'm saying,
appointed.
no, I'm saying this entity did not vote to increase the rents on those units. I think that came through city government.
It doesn't.
Okay,
Through city government, they appoint you folks.
No. Yes and no.
Oh, okay.
What you're saying. What I'm saying, I'm not saying, I'm just saying that a lot of things happen that are beyond our control.
Yes.
That's local. I'm gonna go as far as that. I'm not saying it's good or bad, because I know I'm not supposed to speak to that, but it's local. Am I right? When I say local government, it could be New Rochelle, it could be Mount Vernon, it could be White Plains.
So we're giving you the total picture. Yes,
Yeah, okay.
you know, local government, so you understand what people are feeling and dealing with. As the landlord gives you the total picture.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, okay, I'm just explaining to you why you're here.
Okay, well, thank you for.
You seem to be asking, so.
Why I'm here, I think I know that. The other thing is that, I lost my thought, didn't I? Oh, the increase in the pool of rent control units. I'm not familiar with that, but if you could share with me some information on how that can happen, I would appreciate it.
See, that flabbergasts me, because I would think that would be something that you guys would have a grasp on. I don't mind looking into it as much as I can, but as we have these discussions, we talk about, you know, we do this every year, we're in this tug of war, of how much are we gonna increase the rent or not increase the rent? And never do we talk about the fact that the pool of apartments is diminishing. So we should be talking about how do we either maintain that, and probably because of the need, how do we increase that?
I'm a newbie on, this is like my second year. But you're talking about increasing the pool.
Yeah.
I know how to increase, low income housing. I know how to do that. I know how to create housing that's affordable and so forth. I know how to do all that.
I'd like to hear, how do you do that? No, really, seriously, just a quick synopsis of how you think we should do that. Because that isn't, because the formula that we've been using.
I'm talking about you increase it through new development.
Not by
No,
but go ahead.
you cut me off now.
Okay, go ahead.
When a unit is proposed, And yet, this mission and purpose, it has to be established, right? There's a group that says yes or no to what is going to, what the developer suggests. But also, that entity has the opportunity to say, no, you must have these kinds of units or a certain percentage of these units in your property. We don't say that. But I've never seen in my opinion, I'm not saying it has been done, how to increase existing units into rent control without subsidy. I don't know. I'd like to know. I really don't know.
I'll work with you on it, so I don't think it's, whether if you have to have subsidies or not, yeah, I'm sure you probably do. These developers develop these new buildings, by the way, because you said you know how to build affordable housing. That formula isn't it, that formula is a failure, that's what we have now. We need to understand that.
No, I understand what affordable and low income, trust me.
Affordable, low income, all of it, it's a failure, we're not getting it.
I understand that.
Okay.
I understand that. All I'm trying to say is, help me to understand where I can, we can help to increase the existing pool that is already built. I know how to take care of what haven't built yet, but how do I do what that's existing? Because you mentioned it, to increase the existing pool to rent.
Right.
When a landlord owns a building, how do I go to that landlord, or who can, and say to Joe Schmidt, you need to increase the number of units that are low income?
Okay.
How do I do that, man, on that building?
So I'm gonna take a crack at it, even though this is not, you know, my area, but I can take a crack at it, I have a good idea. Just like anything else, you have a certain number of apartments that are rent stabilized, right? So you would say to that landlord, whatever we determine the guidelines and parameters should be, you can figure that out, what's there, right? But we can say to these, landlords, so if you have 100 rent control apartments, right? Because they talk about, we can, wait till the people die off and we can renovate it and bring it up to marketplace. So they're taking it off the pool. So it should be, you know, a certain percentage. You can take off maybe a certain percentage, or you can't take off a certain percentage, depending on how much you own. Or it could be when we're building new ones, you could say a certain percentage. Right now, we're saying 10% has to be affordable.
Yeah, I don't need to cut you off, I understand new building.
No.
What I'm saying.
Oh, we don't even do that now.
No,
Wait, 10% has to be affordable. In that 10%, let's do another 10%.
Yeah, I'm saying,
rent control.
I'm having this talk with you.
I'm giving you some ideas.
No, I know how to do new development. But a person who owns a building,
Yeah.
whether it's 35 units, 50 units, 150 units, and maybe only 5% of those units are rent stabilized.
Right.
I'll just give you a dramatic. How do I go to the person who owns that building, say, can I legislate that you must increase the number of units in your building that are rent stabilized?
Just the way you have legislated that you have rent control apartments now. How is that different?
No,
So we're
what the
gonna
difference
change
is-
the guidelines that you have additional apartments.
What the difference is this, the landlord says, a person moves out.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna rent it because I can't increase the rent, right? I can't force that landlord to rent it, they can keep it vacant. That's their property, they own it.
Right.
This conversation is very interesting.
It is, he's not asking me, but you can legislate that too.
And
We legislate everything.
Ms. Santiago.
Yes.
Well, I was gonna make a similar point, I don't think that we need to get into a debate about it.
Not my question, so those are yours.
But, in terms of what landlords do, this body has no control over, it's not the purview of this body. We don't work with any one municipality to do that. I love the idea of increasing the pool, but I think that can only be done if we offer the landlord has to receive some sort of subsidy, because right now, to construct a brand new apartment is about $500,000. I don't know if you know that.
I love how these boards are always so sympathetic and empathetic to the landlord's plight. But yet, when it comes to understand the individual's plight and the concerns, I don't hear the same knowledge. And you're quoting to me how much it costs for him to build a building. And I'm quoting to you that we're making $30,000 a month, $40,000, even at $60,000, we cannot afford your $4,000 a month rent. We can't afford $1,000 increases in 60 days, $1,500 increases, and y'all keep telling me about their plight. That's the thing. So
You let me finish.
I would love, I got you, but I'm gonna say, I would love to help however I can. I will meet with any of your, Leslie said she would meet with community workers, and we'll help you figure this out, because it can be legislated. I'm down. You're like getting part of whoever needs to be the person, the purvey of wherever it needs to be. We'll figure that out, but you're a start.
Yes, thank you for your testimony, and I agree with you.
Thank you.
I do, well, I agree with you in part. And that is that we need more rent stabilized apartments. That's obvious. We have a housing shortage. But I'm just gonna tell you from what I've seen, okay, the business model is broken. And it needs to be fixed. And one of those is we need to make it as advantageous to the landlord to be able to be in the business, okay, as we need it to be affordable for the tenant. Okay, so there has to be a happy medium, and we are here representing rent stabilized apartments. Not anything that went down in Rochelle that had nothing to do with rent stabilization. We don't make those decisions. One more clarification.
So some of those buildings I'm telling you about have rent stabilized apartments.
These other buildings have not only been on the market rent apartments, because the fact is that you can't double the rent on an apartment that's rent stable.
Exactly, but you have in those buildings that was affordable, yes, it's apartment by apartment. We should have a good idea of what that pool is. Do we know what that pool is? Of rent stabilized apartments in Rochelle.
No.
Why don't we know that? How do we work on this if we don't know that? If you guys don't know that?
Well, I'll tell you what, after we get to our statistical meeting, which is coming this Tuesday, we'll get back to you and let you know what it is. So
I'll work with that.
But I do want to clarify something.
Yes.
And that is, those expenses, going back to the landlord, to the super, something just needs to be clarified about that. Those are costs to the landlord. That super's salary of $60,000, the benefits that super gets in the form of contribution to his 401k, his health benefits, and anything else is a direct cost, out of the adjusted gross income of that landlord, okay? That doorman is a cost to the landlord. And I know the landlords that I have met through the BRI, they don't take pride in the fact that these people are serving the tenants in their building. They want the best possible for their tenants, okay? And they're mostly really good people. So, you know what, quite frankly, the landlord is subsidizing that $130,000 salary hugely. So I don't want this, this audience, nor do I want the board, okay, to go away with the idea that, a super's making $130,000, notwithstanding what's being contributed to the landlord. I just wanted to clarify that because you brought up a couple of, workers that, like a superintendent's salary, along with a doorman's salary and a maintenance worker's salary.
Well, I will have to finish this and move on to the
I
next.
just want to say, again, I love that very moving conversation about what the landlord's, plight is and how they have to pay for all of that. I don't see any supers, owning 2 or 3 buildings because they're getting subsidized so much and they're making so much money, right? But the landlords, they own a lot of buildings and they're pretty wealthy and they have their lawyers coming here to speak. You don't see a lot of us tenants having lawyers coming here to speak for us. So again, your plight and your mindset, and you might feel that it tends to be the poor landlords. And I'm not saying that they don't have costs, of course they have costs. But this is capitalistic society, that's part of their business. If it doesn't work, then their business model isn't any good. And how can we build these things? You know, we said we gotta make it affordable for things. The municipalities can pick up. We've renovated our buildings so that the apartments are affordable. We use taxpayer dollars and get the landlords to build luxury buildings.
Thank you.
Come on, guys, we can do better than this. Thank you.
Good evening, board members.
Good evening.
I'm Jason Stijano. I'm representing the Code of Ability Institute.
Thank you. Have 5 minutes.
We didn't hear that, I'm sorry.
I'm Jason Stijano. I'm representing the Building and Realty Institute, the apartment owners advisory council.
You have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I'm co-president of Levitt First Insurance and Bonding in Tarrytown, New York. Levitt First is Westchester's largest independent insurance broker with 57 years of experience. We are the leading providers of insurance to apartment owners, representing the industry's top insurers, and serve as the insurance advisors to the Building and Realty Institute and the Apartment Owners Advisory Council. I'm here to address the insurance market and the impact on these proceedings. I have 3 points. Number one, insurance expenses are outpacing rent increases. Insurance expenses increased 41% over the past 3 years, 2023 to 2025, according to the DHCR reports that you have. By comparison, rent increases have been just 5.5% for 1-year leases and 8.5% for 2-year leases over the same period. This gap demonstrates the guideline rent increases are not keeping up with major expenses, with insurance as a top 3 expense being a clear example. And I do want to point out, in contrast to the point that was made earlier, insurance, a top 3 expense, is not an expense that you can just pass on to the tenants. It has to be paid for by whatever rent and rent increases are passed by this board. The 2026 DHCR reports are not available, but I am confident you will notice similar trends in insurance expense increases, far exceeding the rent guideline increase based on my next point, which is that the umbrella liability insurance market is in crisis right now. Umbrella liability coverage is essential for protecting owners from catastrophic lawsuits and is required by most lenders. Due to New York's unique scaffold law and a phenomenon called nuclear verdicts, most insurers have exited the New York market, driving up costs for those that remain. Recent Westchester apartment building owner renewal premium increases for umbrella policies placed through our office include a 22% increase for 8 buildings consisting of 364 units in Yonkers, a 254% increase for a 118 unit building in Bronxville, and a 308% increase for a 295 unit building, located in New Rochelle, Larchmont, Mamaroneck, and Eastchester. Insurance is mandatory, many repairs are not. And higher expenses for insurance combined with insufficient rent increases mean that optional expenses relative to repairs can lead to a building that is not properly maintained and affects the tenant's quality of life and even possibly their safety. In conclusion, insurance premiums, again, a top 3 expense, continue to rise faster than the guideline rent increases, and owners face unstable financial challenges under the current guidelines. To ensure buildings remain safe, well-maintained, and financially viable, a reasonable rent increase is not only justified, but necessary. Please consider this information when determining the rent increase for this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes, ma'am?
Hi, sir. Has there been any effort on the part of owners to get together and put pressure on the insurance to be more reasonable as opposed to it always going in the other direction and beating up on tenants?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. Thank you for that question. So the main issue with insurance availability in New York for any type of real estate is New York's scaffold law. So the scaffold law is unique in the United States of America. New York is the only state that has it in the entire country. And every other state used to have a form of this law, and every other state, all 49 other states, Illinois being the last one, have gotten rid of this law, which provides the absolute liability on the part of the building owner if a worker is injured in a fall from a height, like falling off of a scaffold or a ladder or a step stool or a paint can. If gravity is involved, this law is employed, the building owner is 100% liable, even though the building owner had nothing to do with the contractor's work, wasn't supervising the contractor or anything like that. So I, many others, the Building and Realty Institute, and many other organizations that are aligned in many cases with the building owners have been fighting for reform to this law. I've been doing it for over 20 years. It goes nowhere because of the state legislature. Yes.
Well, because New York State is the 50th state to, you still have this law in place.
The only state.
The only state out of 50 states. Do you foresee that there's gonna be some bending? I mean, if Chicago did it, why can't?
Chicago did it in 1996.
Oh. So is there a particular reason why?
You don't want me to answer that question.
Yeah.
Money, follow the money. Follow the trial lawyers and the people that put up the billboards all over the area. It's money.
Anybody else with a question?
Yes. You gave percentages out in regards to the increases. I was struck by the ones that were in the hundreds.
Yep.
Can you give me, rather than a percentage, can you give me a dollar amount of what that would equate to in regards to an increase?
Yeah, well, the examples that I used, so umbrella liability insurance is where the crisis exists right now. You know, a building, you take, many years ago, there was a big fire in the Bronx. Many of you may recall, a lot of people were injured, some people were killed. You have to insure for an event like that, you know, that catastrophic event. Or a worker falling off of a roof or a ladder or anything like that, breaking their back at age 28 in the prime of their earning career and not being able to work for the rest of his life, or you know, construction accident. So you can have multi-million-dollar settlements or judgments, which are the nuclear verdicts that I speak about relative to New York, which is also a New York phenomenon. So the umbrellas that many of these building owners maintain are 10 million, 15, 25 million, that's typical. It used to be you could get 50, 100 million, that's no longer the case. But for a $25 million umbrella per unit, in the examples that I was citing, somewhere in the neighborhood of $800 per unit per year, just for the umbrella. Not any of the other insurance, not the insurance to insure the building for a fire, not the insurance to insure for the general liability insurance that has to go underneath that, just the umbrella liability.
Yes,
Based upon that, there can never be an increase that would substantially provide assistance for that $800. Right?
I'm not.
I'm not asking you to answer, because I know you said certain things you would answer. I'm not gonna ask you to say here. But it's a catch-22, because you need to have it. You need to have some kind of insurance But the question is, well, I'm gonna give you, I can't say that. Okay, thank you.
Yes, Mr.
There are other cities that have skyscrapers just like New York has. And yet those states have managed to get rid of that.
They don't have the same law.
Well, I'm saying, how were they able to get their legislation changed? Like, have we?
Different makeup of the legislature. Different makeup of the legislature, different political makeup of the legislature.
Okay, figured I would ask, it's like, if everybody else has figured it out.
I'd be happy to talk offline about this, but I don't wanna get, I wanna make it out of your life.
Anybody else? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
I have a name here that I cannot read. It says community leader, LU. Starting with LU. I don't know if it says Lawson, I don't. One moment. Is that an L or is it H? Lorraine?
What's the name?
It starts with an L.
L, okay. Can you spell it out?
No.
Is that you?
I don't know, let me see, it might be mine. But I know when they start with a K, so you put it up and you say L. No, that's not. Oh, yeah, that's a K.
That doesn't look like a K. So please state your name and your affiliation.
My name is Pauline Dixon. I'm a community leader and a community advocate for Rochelle.
Thank you. You have 5 minutes.
To your point earlier, was asked about the 10%. The flyer we received said that landlords were seeking 10%. So to clarify where that came from.
No.
Secondly, who said no? I got the flyer right here. You want me to show you?
Yes.
Excuse me, you cannot, please, let's not do this.
All right, so any increase will be a detriment right now to anybody that's paying rent, right? You want an increase in the rent, but there's no increase in our salaries, so how is that gonna be feasible? Raising the rent, you're gonna increase the homeless and housing instability that's currently going on by raising the rent. I live in one of the new buildings, a 1 bedroom is $2,500. That's the rent, right? And then now you gotta pay $90 for amenities. You gotta pay Con Ed, so I don't know where the Con Ed comes from. You gotta pay Con Ed, you gotta pay sewer, garbage disposal. So like it's a bird parking in my building is $250 a month. So it seems like landlords is getting over. We're the ones working every day, struggling, working 2 jobs sometimes, and can't afford regular, my hat says allegedly, what allegedly is affordable housing. We can't afford it. We can't afford it. An increase, I understand that they burden with it. They're in the business. If the business isn't going right, you gotta figure out different ways, different avenues to become successful and sustain, right? They can't just pass it off on us. We got seniors in here on a fixed income. What is 10% increase gonna do? 5% income. It's gonna hurt them. It's literally gonna hurt them and increase the homelessness, right? Like Mr. Seam said, we gotta figure out another solution, strategy, something. What it is, I don't know, but meetings like this and more meetings with people in the community that pays rent so y'all can actually hear, right? Hear what's going on. We can't afford a rent increase, 1%, 2%, 10%. Can't afford it. It's not feasible right now. Everybody sees what's going on. Everything sky high rocketing is going up. So why at this particular point in time are you gonna ask for an increase? Why? You're not thinking about your tenants. I'm a housing inspector. I go to some of these buildings and buildings ain't even up to par, but you're asking for a rent increase. You don't want to make fixes, but you're asking for a rent increase. This is unacceptable. And I'm pretty sure some of y'all up there has people that's at the lower end of income making that can't afford an increase, that's struggling. People that you know that might be your family, friends, whoever. I have a daughter that filled out, she works a job, she filled out affordable housing building. They told her she don't make enough. How is it affordable if you don't make enough? What are we doing? What are we doing? Like, I get it, they got issues, we got issues, but they can just pass their issues on to us, right? We can't go to them and say, hey, my check didn't come. They're gonna put us in court and get evicted. So this can't happen. I'm asking, just no increase whatsoever until we can figure out a viable solution on how we can move forward and do it, right? That's it.
Thank you. Please, please, yes.
Thank you for your passion. I just want to make one little correction. I'm not asking for an increase.
All right.
No, you said
The landlords, the landlords.
We haven't made a decision on that, so we're listening.
Right, and I'm asking y'all not
I know, but
not to push
what you were saying, you're asking.
All right,
That's
I misspoke. The landlords are
I
that.
understand what you meant. All right, I hear you.
All right.
We good. All right.
Anybody else? No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Not here, please. Excuse. Mr. Steve Geller?
Hello, my name is Steve Geller. I'm here on behalf of the Building Realty Institute. Thank you. I've worked for the last 29 years for Meridian Capital Group. We're a commercial finance company. For 29 years, I've been specializing in financing underlying co-op loans and condos. Our company is the largest originator of mortgages for family across the country, but I like my niche in the co-ops and condos because I enjoy trying to help people stay in their apartments. And I know it's a little bit different than what we're talking about here, but we're talking about economics. Just wanted to go through just a couple of quick points to try to.
Yeah.
I've never heard anybody speak more eloquently and in a balanced way, and I just, I really said. I think at the end of the day, there's a perception between tenants and landlords. There's always been that friction. And if you do research, I have a report here that I'm going to leave with you from the Regional Plan Association that talks about bad landlords. It's a report, because I looked it up, because this is what we see in the newspaper about slumlords. This is from 2018. And then you just get from the title, bad landlords own buildings housing 1 million people and cost all New Yorkers $300 million a year. It doesn't sound like a right-leaning report. If you open up the report, in this report it says only 2% of New York landlords are considered bad landlords. What's considered a bad landlord? Complaints about conditions and evictions. Evictions we know don't happen one-sided. It has to be litigated in court, so that if there's an eviction, it's usually because of lack of payment. The point is, the problem with landlords, of bad landlords, 2% of all landlords being considered bad is a remarkable thing. It means that 98% of the landlords have in their interest to maintain the building, to maintain the quality of life of the tenants, to maintain the value of their asset. Maintaining the value of their asset benefits the tenants. We're in a period of crisis right now. The talk about rent control and rent stabilization has gone on for 45 years I've lived in New York. But the truth of the matter is that this is really not a political issue, it's an accounting issue. And if the landlords would love to freeze the rents, I firmly believe that all landlords have no problem. If you want to freeze expenses, they probably wouldn't have a problem keeping the rents at a reasonable level without raising it. But on the other hand, we have to admit the reality that when gas prices go up, we're not gonna go complain to the gas station. When food prices go up, we have nobody to complain to. If the landlords are going to have to face these astronomical expense increases, if they don't pass that on to the tenants in order to supplement the income to pay those increases, the conditions of the building are gonna deteriorate. All you guys should do is Google Pinnacle Realty and what just happened in New York City, where an $880 million portfolio of apartment buildings was put into default and the owner went into bankruptcy. And this $880 million portfolio of apartment buildings was sold at auction for half in the 450, I don't remember the exact number. And the holder of this apartment building, of these buildings that bought it for half the value, still cannot maintain the buildings with the expenses versus the income that they're making for half the price. So I think that the tenants have, this is their life. I mean, the tenants are coming to say that things are very difficult, but not allowing the landlords to raise the rent. It's like the consumer price index. If prices go up, the income has to go up, or else there's no money, there's no repairs, there's no maintenance, and everybody's gonna suffer. The landlords are gonna suffer, the tenants are gonna suffer, the buildings are gonna suffer. And from there, it's a recipe for disaster. Rent stabilization, rent freezes is a regressive sort of plan. And the truth is, somebody asked for an idea for how to fix this, and I'd like to throw it out. It has nothing to do with why I'm here. If you look at places like Nevada, has no state income tax because the gambling industry pays so much money that they don't have to charge a state tax. Florida has no state tax because of the visitation, the people who go on vacation there, and that's a Disney World. Disney World pays so much. You guys are hearing about these data centers, and it sounds terrible, and it's being presented to you in a negative way. What you don't understand is that data centers are being built by companies that are not worth billions of dollars. They're worth trillions of dollars. Data centers are going to make so much money, they can be turned into a Disney World, a gambling sort of environment where they can be taxed and they can be made to pay an inordinate percentage of the expenses of the communities that they're moving into. And this is what Washington is talking about. It's never going to happen, of taxing them at an inordinately high rate, which a lot of these AI companies are willing to pay. Trillions of dollars, they're willing to pay a lot more in taxes. But this is something that I think you guys might want to take a look at before you say, well, they're going to use the electricity, they're going to use the water. There's an opportunity, if you were to investigate it, of how to turn hosting such a thing in the general area into a lot more money coming in to support the communities. But
Thank you.
Thank you.
Someone, last name breaks. Left. And Yvonne sounds, yes.
Hi, hello. Yes, I am Yvonne Smith Kilgore, lifelong resident of Rochelle. I'm here as a tenant and I'm here as a concerned person.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I followed all the rules, or so I thought. I went to school. I wasn't a young mom. I did things that I felt I was supposed to do, go to school, get a nice job, try to live comfortably. I did all of that. And even now, at my age, I'm still by myself struggling. And it's just bad. It's just like really, really bad. And I'm here to say a rent increase, please, folks, guys. Pull on your heartstrings, just think, if it could be anybody. It could be anybody. And just imagine the people who, I'm not patting myself on the back,
I'm not better than anyone. I'm just saying, imagine people who fell into hard times when they were coming up, didn't follow the rules, but now they're trying to be on the right road and amend their lives. Think about the struggle that they're having too, you know, so I'm here for the tenants, I'm here for myself, I'm here for other tenants. And my sister, my younger sister, I told her I was coming, I watched my nephew for her. He has special needs, so she takes excellent care of him. She's a certified public accountant, and even she's concerned about her living, you know, situation, and it's just bad, it's just like really, really bad. So I just want you to think about this, please, okay? So that's why I'm here, and that's why I want to talk. And I'm sure Holly, who is my cousin, and who have 3 children of her own, I'm sure she's concerned as a tenant too. And I'm sure she wanted to say something about that too. So thank you very much.
Thank you, please stay there.
Sure, no problem.
Anybody have a question?
I don't have a question, I just would like to thank you.
No problem.
Very passionate
Yes.
statement, especially about, you know, people who have gone the wrong way and have brought themselves back.
Mhm.
Thank you for mentioning.
Thank you. And Con Ed is a bad word. No offense, again, you know, no, it really is, seriously, real quick. You know, I worked all through COVID, all my life, I did what I felt I was supposed to do, I was called goody two shoes. I did everything I was supposed to do, and, so I'm working, and I noticed like a few years ago with the, COVID, Con Ed started raising stuff. And because I was working so much, I was paying. And then all of a sudden, I found myself paying more to Con Ed than I was paying rent. I'm like, something is wrong. So I had to go through all the building committees and all this and that. Then they claimed it was a leak in the building, it was a gas, something, whatever happened. They ended up getting in trouble, and now I have free Con Ed, but I know it's not gonna last long. But I just want to say, I've been infected for like 2 years, but I'm just saying it's a very, very bad word, Con Ed. And they want me to trust them and, use their services again, I would never. I will go outside and use a lamp, the street lamp, before I use Con Ed, that's how I feel right now. So Con Ed is a bad. Thank you.
And now I'm going to call your cousin, is it? How do you work?
I guess she's bad.
Okay, so that's the last person I have here in my list. Unless I'm missing somebody else who wants to come, please take advantage. No? No takers? Okay. If that's the case, before I forget, I want to acknowledge that, Sylvia Hammer is here for the record. Yeah, I know, but I forgot to mention it. So do I hear a motion to adjourn? So. Second?
Okay.
All in. Agreement?
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for your presence.